Hi everybody, I'm Tim Bulott and welcome to Making of El Negocio Behind the Scenes. When we filmed this project some 15 years ago, we were fortunate enough to have a videographer that could document the behind the scenes action and the actual process of making this film. So if you're a film enthusiast, you can actually use this as a guide on how to make your own independent film, for example. But for our viewers today, we want to use this as a point of motivation. We are now 15 years later in the process of producing El Negocio 2, Extraction Point, a sequel to our first film. The film, just like the first film, is going to focus on martial arts, okay, the values of martial arts. It's going to have a lot of lessons sprinkled throughout the film, but it's also going to have an interesting story that follows a lot of action sequences. We're doing this completely independent of any large production companies, and it's possible today due to the technology. So to help with the interest and the motivation that we need to make this project a success, we hope you will watch and enjoy this two-part documentary on how we made the first film. We need funding. We would like to do our funding through our Patreon site. There's 3 ways to join on Patreon: free membership, a $5, and a $25 a month membership. With the free membership, you can join and just purchase and stream whatever videos you want. And by the way, we have more than 60 training videos, high quality training videos, martial arts and tactics, firearms, etc., that are on our Patreon site at this time. With one of the paid memberships, you have more direct access to certain videos and you can still select and choose what you want, or with the $25 membership, you get everything. The money that we gain from your contributions through Patreon goes directly into a fund that we are using to fund El Negocio 2. And hopefully we can get this project completed with your help, and we can bring you a sequel to our successful first film involving some fantastic martial arts scenes and some action scenes, a great storyline, and just an awesome experience. And it's all put together and produced by former law enforcement, military, and martial artists. Okay, so we're asking that you help us in this endeavor. Enjoy this 2-part documentary, but join us on patreon.com and be a part of El Negocio 2, Extraction Point. Thank you. Well, I started an independent film some 13, 14 years ago, and I was collaborating on the project with a student at my martial arts school there in Irving, Texas, and we developed some 20 some odd pages of script at that time, and we were going to film it on Super VHS with the JVC series 3 CCD cameras, which are big giant cameras. And anyway, my partner Brett in the project, he took a fall on his regular job and ended up breaking quite a few bones in his body. And at that time, I just wasn't ready to go it alone, so that took care of that project. So it got backburnered, and then I was in a position where I was finishing a job down in Columbia, a job for the government, and I wanted to give it another try. You know, making a movie was becoming more cost effective, more possible, still expensive, but possible. And I had a little bit of funding from some money I saved, so I had this basic concept for the script and the screenplay and so forth, but I didn't want to actually have to write it out because I knew the final screenplay would be 70, 80, 90 pages long and so forth. So I wrote a synopsis based off of 50 scenes, and I took that to Antonio, who does like to write, and he's written before. And over a series of meetings and conversations and kicking this thing back and forth, we developed it into the to the screenplay El Negocio off of that synopsis and so forth. And we were able to put this project together. And the next step was casting. So we began looking locally first. And casting for an independent film is is not is not easy, and if you're going to use paid talent, it's going to end up costing you a lot of money. So you have to try to find people that want to participate in the film just because maybe they're aspiring actors or actresses and so forth, and they just want to do it basically for their resume. So we began scripting for it, and the first thing we want to look for with martial artists. Well, down in that part of the world, it's really hard to find people that are experienced martial artists. You got a lot of people that work out and they have these home clubs and stuff like that, but martial arts in Colombia hasn't been pioneered like it has in the States, for instance. So we were very limited on martial artists, so we put the word out, and through help with some good friends like Frank Soto, a good example, we were able to bring in Frank and Sergio, Humberto, and the others from their respective countries, and that was sufficient for the Kempo side of the film and so forth. And then we had to find a mixed martial arts crowd because we needed to show some of that in there as well. So on the local side, we were able to find David and Cesar and Henry and Mauricio and those guys, and they did an excellent job of acting in the film. I mean, far exceeded my expectations as young actors. And Mark came in and he worked with them a lot and brought them up to speed on what they would have to do to the film or in the film to perform, and they did a bang-up job. So through a lot of hard work, a lot of coordination, a lot of cooperation, we were able to come up with the casting to put the action side of the film together. What we're going to do here is this is the first fight scene of the film. So it's not going to be a really big drawn out fight scene. What we want to do is just give the audience a taste of the action that's to come. So we're going to show just a quick attack with a knife, followed by 2 or 3 subsequent attacks, and that's it. So basically, my character is at this point is having a meeting to set up the deal that's to come later. But while we're doing this, there's a desplazado, a homeless bum that's watching. And the thing that's unique about that is here in this area, it's very dangerous. There's many homeless bums in this area. And so every time we're out here, the police say, be careful, be careful, be careful. So we're in a scene where this is very likely to happen. Next, you'll see an attack with a knife. And this is very normal for the culture here also. Where in the States, they're more likely to use a gun. Here it's more likely to happen with a knife. So that's what we're going to do.
Well, I'm part of the production team. There's 3 of us producers, and our idea is to make a low-budget film because it can be done. We've got 2 cameras and all the equipment we need. And what we're going to do today is to test color, to test camera quality, to see if they're working. We're going to record at 24 frames progressive. And that's the exercise. Do things without a whole lot of money, without complication, without waiting months for a budget to get approved. Because this is about making films and making them with what you have. That's my role, to help technically with the knowledge I have in audiovisual filmmaking, and to test things.
pre-convention?
You know, it's funny how you know people for some years, and you really don't know the depth behind them sometimes. And I would say that's what happened. I had met this movie's protagonist working, and I had this idea of somebody who clearly knows martial arts, although we'd never talked about that. And I had the idea of somebody who does like tactical training for law enforcement agencies and stuff like that. I had an idea of somebody who was like, you know, one of those guys that talks through a mic on his watch or something. And well, I eventually ended up playing golf with a dude, and well, golf became part of the friendship. And one fine day he calls and says, "Do you know anybody who is like into film? Anybody who's got cameras and lights and whatnot?" And I said, sure, because besides all the other things that I do voiceovers. So I deal a lot with people that are in film and with recording studios and that kind of thing. And then that's when I found out that our protagonist actually knows a thing or two about cameras. So I was intrigued. Next question is, do you know anybody who can write a script? And I said, well, hell yes, I do. I happen to be that person. I've been writing for years and years and years, and I was thrilled by the possibility of writing something and getting it filmed. I really didn't care what it was about. And that led, you know, one thing led to another, and suddenly we've got an overarching theme which is related to martial arts, and we're working collaboratively, looking at different sides of the story and what kinds of things we would like and what we wouldn't like. And you know, in those discussions, one of the things that came about was, let's not take the easy way out. Let's not be so cliched and say that, okay, we're in Colombia because this is where we are. We're in Colombia, and the story has to have drug traffickers, evil paramilitaries, hideous criminals, and corrupt law enforcement. Let's just make this a story about the martial arts. Let's make this a story about somebody who gets it and somebody who doesn't. And that, in a nutshell, without giving the story away, would be the basic idea of the protagonist and the antagonist. The not even a fallen angel antagonist is a jargon speaking, BS talking scumbag hustler, and he's got what he thinks is the ultimate dojo, and he's actually a sleazebag, a criminal, and he's in love with this girl who's not much better than he is, a girl who happens to have met by chance, to have met an important person who is a key catalyst of the story at some point. So that would be, in big terms, without giving any of the story away at this point, what it's all about and how it got started. It was a question of just talking. You know, we started talking, and one thing led to another, and suddenly you're telling me about you meeting this guy, a talented camera operator, filmmaker, somebody who went to college and studied visual media production. And we just started to network, basically. We started to network, and would you believe that people started to be interested in the whole thing? It was like, okay, this is different. This is not something that everybody else is doing. This is not the hard luck, let's get the hell out of this country story. This is a story that happens to take place in Colombia, but it's not necessarily about Colombia. It's more universal. And I think that is what has attracted people to the whole project, to help us out in the project. Everybody's working long hours and putting in a lot of effort and doing things the right way. You know, we've got state-of-the-art equipment, we've got good cameras. When we need things, we network through our friends and we get things. And it's been a very enjoyable thing to do because of that. You know, just the whole collaboration has been incredible. I think for me, it's something I thrive in, and I think some of the other people in the crew that I've talked to are absolutely thrilled to be a part of this. You know, it's just something different, and it's cool.
Rule number one in an independent film is to get the most popular person, the most popular face that you can to appear in your movie. Antonio and I tried to cast the movie strictly with people from Colombia, and that wasn't going to work. It's a small country, and it just didn't have the assets when it came to doing what we needed to do. Now, my relationship with Larry goes way back to 1990. I started studying Kempo with him right after the death of Senior Grandmaster Ed Parker, and studied personally with Larry for a number of years, and was fortunate enough to go through the whole Kempo system with Larry. But Larry and I developed more of a personal friendship along the way as well. And I produced a number of videos for Larry that he uses to sell through his school and so forth, and instructional videos. So Larry was aware of my passion for video and filmmaking, because we had discussed it before and we had discussed movies. So I just picked up the phone and I called him and I said, Larry, I've got this project, and what do you think about it? And he was interested. He was more interested than I thought that he would be. And I think for a couple of reasons. I think one of the reasons was because I was doing it, and Larry has confidence in me as a filmmaker. But on the other reason, I think Larry saw it as an opportunity for him to show Kempo through another venue other than teaching at a seminar, and so forth. And that's a love for Larry, okay? And so Larry wanted in on the project, and of course I was thrilled. And so we made arrangements, and Tony and I got back together again, and we say, okay, we got our face, we got Larry, and who else could you ask for to take on the role that he had? So Tony and I got together and we reorganized the screenplay once again. So I actually downplayed my role at that time a little bit, and we created a little bit different of a scenario. So we brought Larry in on it, and thus enter Grandmaster Sean Glenn. And Larry really showed his mastery of Kempo on the set. And I remember one example on his big fight where he fought 4, 5, 6 of the international guys that came in. I blocked out 3 afternoons for choreograph and for rehearsals on that, and the guys went out there and they worked hard, and Larry had it in 1 afternoon. And I thought for a second, well, this can't be that good. He just did it. You know, he's only been out there for a few hours with these guys. And so I said, okay, let's go take a look. And I was wrong. Larry, once again, I mean, he impressed me one more time. I mean, still after all these years, you know, he's does he still have it? Yeah, he does. And he had this awesome fight scene blocked out, and where he fought all of the all of the international Kempo guys that came in. That was part of the escape scene in the movie. So we ended up just going with that, tweaked it up a little bit, and it was quite a good fight scene. I mean, it was definitely the highlight scene of the fight scene of the film. But for me to be able to spend time with Larry in that fashion, and some of the conversations that we had in the scenes in the film, they were written that way, but they were more Larry and I just being ourselves. And there's one particular scene where we're on the Overlook. It's the kid in the abduction scene, and I'm talking to Larry about, you know, my experiences in life leading up to that and so forth, and Larry's kind of answering with some of his experience in life. And that is, in the film, it's a student instructor scene, but in real life it was a student instructor scene as well. Which brings me to the next point. That's something that I wanted to portray, or I wanted to get out in El Negocio, is lineage, and how important lineage is. Because we are in a day today where you know, you got internet dojo, you got virtual dojo where a person can go online and get a black belt. Okay, you got DVD home study courses, which I'm dead set against, and you have YouTube and those types of things where people don't study like they did. For instance, when I came up through the rank, where I had to physically do every technique under the guidance of my instructor and test for every rank on, you know, real bodies, and you leave your blood and your sweat and your tears on the floor of the dojo. And that's the way, you know, a lot of us came through the ranks, and that's something that seems to be wiped aside these days. And so the lineage is lost, and to me it's very obvious in a lot of cases, but the lineage of martial arts is lost these days. With playing this part beside Larry, you know, I had my lineage there, okay? But part of the message behind that is even the instructors have instructors, even the masters have masters, okay? And my character, Bud Holt, you know, he's a special operator, very worldly guy, been there, done that type of person, martial artist all of his life. He even maintains his relationship with his master to this day, and that's me as well, okay? And that's part of the message that we wanted to get out in the film, is the importance of having a solid lineage in the martial arts.
Phone call one day from one of my old students, Tim Bulott, and he was in Colombia making a film. And he called me up and he said, "Hey man, I've got this project that I'm working on, and it's going to be quite a film." He said, "I have an idea in mind to film it in such a way that the fight scenes, the martial art fight scenes, will be closer to realism than using ropes and green screens and this type of thing." So basically he was going to shoot it what we call old school. And so he called me up and asked if I wanted to be part of the project. And I said, "I'd love to." But little did I know I'd have the starring role when I got down here. So being on this project and being on the set with some tremendous martial artists, all from all points of the globe, that volunteered to come in and help and be a part of it. They knew I was going to be there, and many of them were students of my students. And
Soy Frank. Vengo de México, estamos aquí en la película, en la filmación de la película El Negocio, con mis hermanos kempoístas. Tenemos a Paco del DF, mi hijo. Tenemos al Flaco de Oro, Omar Díaz, de Chile, de Viña del Mar. Tenemos también al viejo Lobo de Mar, el máster Sergio Contreras, de Santiago. Tenemos al Gigoló, mi sobrino, hijo del Papi Chulo, que viene directamente desde Los Teques, Venezuela. Tenemos al Chucho Perrucho, Rommel Pineda, de México DF, que está con nosotros también. Y un servidor, Shield. Importante, aunque no se encuentra ahorita con nosotros, está descansando en su hotel. Ahí no lo tienen confinado en la estación de policía. El gran Master Larry Tatum, de quien todos los que estamos aquí presentes, ya sea somos alumnos o hemos sido alumnos directos en diferentes periodos de nuestras vidas, o indirectos. Aún el mismo Mark, Tim, que es uno de sus alumnos más avanzados, más aventajados del maestro Larry, que tiene más años con él. El mismo Sergio Contreras, quien es su representante en Chile, de la LT. La gente de Vigoriux, el maestro Vigoriux es alumno del maestro Larry. Está también trabajando con nosotros, un servidor. Yo recibí mi cinturón negro de él en Kempo, y mi gente, Paco y Rommel, que están relacionados también. Y estamos muy honrados de poder ayudar, de poder hacer que el viejo se vea fuerte, se vea bien como es, que muestre su arte. Y estamos aquí haciendo historia en la estación de policía de Bogotá.
So when you see this film, you're going to see a lot of action, but you're going to see a lot of Kempo from many different sources, many talented people. And the movie is built around a drug cartel trying to control a local town, and in that town of martial art, Tim is basically playing a character of Bud who's trying to keep a martial arts school open and break free from his work to fight the drug cartel. And in doing so, breaking free, he wanted to open up a martial arts school, but they wanted him to pay protection money. He doesn't want to do it, so they start harassing him. And in the film, I come in and I help him. And in the process of helping him with his school, we both get kidnapped. And we have to fight our way out of the kidnap situation. And it involves not just the fight scenes, but some it's written well. It's a good story. It has a lot of backstory, different personalities, and so the project we just finished today, and we're looking forward to have this out by August. And so we hope all of you will come and see it and enjoy it. But you're going to see tremendous fight scenes in this film, and I think this is the first time in my career of acting where I personally enjoyed this particular fight scene that I do. What I like about working on a low-budget film is that everybody has to wear many hats. Now, I've been on high-budget films where the camera, you have the camera crews, you have the lighting crews, you have everybody doing their specific work, and which they're paid to do. But on these low-budget films, it's actually fascinating because not only was acting in it and so forth, but I had to choreograph a lot of the fight scenes for the others, including myself. But I became a director behind the camera with certain actors that needed help in developing their character for a certain scene. So what I like about low budget is that everybody is asked to do more than their specific job, and I think this makes for a very interesting film. It makes for a film that there's more heart in it than just the director and just the actors acting. But when you're behind the scenes and you're helping everybody move a mic here or a camera here, or direct a scene, or help somebody reach a moment-to-moment availability in their acting, when you do this type of thing and you all of you have to pull together, then what happens is these low-budget films come up many times better than the high-budget films because there's more soul in the acting, because everybody is involved. It's more of a family effort. And I think these low-budget films will continue to be the thing for a long time because of just the things that I've discussed about it. When Tim called me, he said, we're going to need a certain type of actor, martial artist, that can dummy up for my type of techniques and the other martial artists in there as well. We couldn't use a typical stuntman from Hollywood or stuntwoman, but we had to use people that we knew in our particular system of Kempo so that they could react and, take an explosive technique. A lot of the techniques that I do in the film, the strikes are so close, and many of them actually kiss the skin, as we call it in Kempo, that it takes a real martial artist to prepare for this type of filming. And not only that, but they have to know how to act. And what was fascinating is that when I called Tim back, I said, I will put the word out in the martial art world, particularly the Kempo world, we need certain people to act in the film and also, do the stunt work as well. And by the time I got down there, we knew we were going to have about 7 or 8 people, but we had many more than that coming from 5, 6, 7 different countries to help. And so when you see this film, not only are you going to see some tremendous acting from these guys, right? You would think many of these guys had been acting as a career, but you're going to see how they dummy up for these techniques. And these techniques are very dangerous. When I move in these techniques, and when Tim Bulott moves in these techniques, we're moving at full speed, full force, so that if they do get too close, they do get hit at times. But this makes for tremendous camera work, so that when the audience is watching it, they're not watching cut-ins all the time like they do on large budget films. They're watching the real thing. I mean, there are points where we do cut in just so you can get a better angle, but 90% of what you see on camera is what we're doing. And this is important because then people can relate to the film and say, wow, they actually did that. Mr. Tatum did a fight scene where he took on 6 guys. And the techniques that I use are techniques that somebody could leave the theater, learn, and develop. This isn't hanging from ropes and using a green screen behind us to get the effect. What you see is what you get, and that is the old school of doing martial art films. And now it's reemerged and there's a new place for it again. During the kidnapping scene, we had the guerrillas come on top of this hill that was overlooking one of the cities outside of Bogota, and we were up almost 9,000 feet or more. And when they came in to kidnap myself and Tim, they rushed out of the truck with their M4 rifles, and being a Vietnam vet brought back a lot of memories real quick. And so what I did is, in terms of what I learned from my acting teacher, was to use sense memory. If you're confronted with something that you had been exposed to a long time ago, use that in your acting, in your emotional content. So when I saw them come out of the truck with those guns, and they were screaming and yelling because they were coming after us, it was as real as that we were going to get, because I was coming from a real place. Being confronted with them did bring back memories and overseas. And it helped me a lot to do that. And I'll tell you something, the Colombian police, the national police here, did an incredible job acting in this. You'll see it when they come out of the truck and they grab us up and take us in and so forth. You would once again, you'd think that the police here were actors, because they come from a real place when they do it. And I just want to say thank you to the Colombian police for being such a great part of this film. They did a great job, and it made it. The fight scenes in this particular movie, I think, was the best work I did on screen so far in my career, whether doing instructional videos or doing movies. As I grow older and mature in Kempo, my abilities also are proportioned to that. So in doing this film, I evoked all my years of expertise into these fight scenes. It was gratifying to know that my work from the past was not going to be the pedestal I stood on in terms of how good I did something, or how But what's nice is that every time I do a film or something of that nature, I try to evoke a better technique, faster, stronger, more masterful than the last time. My greatest critic is myself, and my greatest challenge is myself. So I'm very happy with what I did personally in these fight scenes. There was a tremendous amount of key involved, and particularly in the escape scene from the kidnappers, when we do escape in the film, it reaches the level of realism that I wanted to bring forth. It reaches the level of, it's what we call primal level in Kempo. And I'm very happy with it. And the next project that we're working on is Dojo, and other films coming out. But as I continue to work in these films, I'm gonna ask more of myself. I'm not gonna rest on my previous accomplishments in terms of how well I did something. I keep challenging myself, and that's what keeps me going. Two things. Number one, I love teaching people, and secondly, I love challenging myself.
Okay, that concludes part 1 of Making El Negocio and Behind the Scenes. We hope you thoroughly enjoyed that. I'd like to encourage you to proceed to part 2 and to visit us on patreon.com/Weapons Academy. Be a part of this exciting adventure in the production of El Negocio 2, the sequel.